don't know if she's in here or not, but I have a card. Miss Leanne, okay. I see you're for this. Do you want to speak on them? All I'm going to do is read them into the record, ma'am.
I'm here on the Cotton Creek.
Okay, so that's a, would you fill it out, another one out for the right one for me, please? Thank you. Okay, number one, ordinance calendar number 6483, ordinance to officially name the 20-foot right-of-way / private road identified on the attached survey as Bow Lock Lane, District 4. No motion is needed. Okay, we need a motion to introduce, I'm sorry. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Thank you. Number two, ordinance calendar number 6484, ordinance to officially name the parish right-of-way shown on the attached survey to South Ashna Boulevard, District 1. Mr. Dean, motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Toledano. Number three, ordinance calendar number 6485, ordinance to officially name the private road identified on the attached drawing and survey as Romans Road, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. O'Brien. Thank you. Okay, we'll get into the appeals now. And just so everyone knows, we have a 10-minute time limit on both sides. If you're for, you have 10 minutes. If you're against, you have 10 minutes. That's a combination of everyone, a 10-minute time period. Once everyone has their 10 minutes, we have a 3-minute rebuttal and then a 2-minute conclusion on each appeal. We'll go to number one. Stephen Mott appealing the Zoning Commission approval on March 3rd, 2020 to rezone 98 acres located on the east side of LA Highway 1081, south of Smith Road, north of Thibodeau Road, Covington, from A-1 Suburban District to A-2 Suburban District, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald.
After talking with all parties concerned, and once more, we need to postpone pending the traffic study.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone by Mr. Fitzgerald. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Archery. Please vote. Any opposed?
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you. Number two is Stephen Mott appealing the Zoning Commission approval on March 3rd, 2020 to rezone 141 acres located on the east side of LA Highway 1081, south of Smith Road, north of Thibodeau Road, Covington, from A-2 Suburban District to PUD, Plan Unit Development Overlay, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald.
These two appeals go hand in hand and likewise move to postpone.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote. Okay, seeing no one, thank you. We had 2 cards on this appeal, Matthew Allen and Ed Willenberg. Yes, sir. Both of these are postponed, and I think they're waiting for a traffic study. But you're more than welcome to come up. You have a card if you want to just come up and say you're for or against. That's all. We're not going to get into the actual makeup of the appeal, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we would like to...
Would you please state your name first, please, sir?
It's Edwin Miltenberger. We
Yes, sir.
live right there on Highway 1081, directly across from the Terra Maria development. And the organization and the structure of that whole thing has actually been very good. The dilemma is that as you guys have heard, I'm sure multiple times, is the traffic is horrendous. I know you're doing a traffic study.
Yes,
Hopefully it will
Mr.
lead-
Ed, we're not going to get into the meat of
Okay.
it right now, but you can more than welcome say you're for or against right now.
Right now, I'm against.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
And I know Mr. Fitzgerald will let you know when that's coming back up.
Good.
Thank you. Matthew? Yes, sir. Oh, how you doing, Mr. Allen? I didn't say, thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to skip number 3 for a minute and go to number 4. Jeffrey D. Sharon appealing the zoning commission denial on June 23rd, 2020 to rezone 47.43 acres located on the west side of Carroll Road, south of Devon Drive, and north of Icasa Street, Slidell, A-3 Suburban District to A-4 Single Family Residential District, Ward 9, District 12. Mr. Bender, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On item 4 and the next item 5, but specifically on item 4, the petitioner through their representative, Mr. Shane, sent an email to myself, to you, and to Mr. Liner with Planning and Development, letting them know that they were going to remove or withdraw and dismiss the original application, which was for the 140 lots. Therefore, if there are anyone from the audience, I'd like to make a motion to remove permanently.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. We have no cards to speak, and so therefore, all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you.
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Number 5, Jeffrey D. Shane, appealing the zoning commission denial on June 23rd, 2020 to rezone 47.43 acres located on the west side of Carroll Road, south of Devon Drive, and north of Icasa Street, Slidell, from A-4 single-family residential district to A-4 single-family residential district, plan unit development overlay, Ward 9, District 12. Mr. Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As with number 4, again, included in that email was the intent by the petitioner to withdraw and dismiss. And so I make the motion to remove permanently.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Having no cards, please vote. Any opposed?
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just real quickly for benefit of the public and my colleagues, in that email also, Mr. Shane indicated that his clients were and did in fact file an application for a new plan. It's being treated as a new application by Planning and Development, and it is due to be heard, I believe, at the Zoning Commission meeting in the beginning of November. So just a point of clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Thank you. Number 3, Eric Penton appealing the Zoning Commission denial on June 24th, 2020 to rezone 1.3 acres located on the east side of Blueberry Loop, north of Archery Singletary Road, Pearl River, A-2 Suburban District, MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay and RO Rural Overlay, to A-3 Suburban District, MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay and RO Rural Overlay. Ward 6, District 6, Mr. Penton. Okay, Ms. Tanner, you have... Well, I couldn't hear you, sweetie.
I'm sorry. I will talk for Mr. Penton
Sure.
later.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
let the,
Okay,
other
well, you
people
have the floor, madam.
Oh, well, I don't want the floor right now. Can I give it up for later? Or I can go
Yes,
ahead.
yes, ma'am.
I can go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Penton has had several projects and so forth, and he worked very closely with my husband on those through the years. And he had talked to my husband recently on this, and he had also told him that he had talked to the neighbors. There was no objections. I think he even did some works for some of the neighbors. And so that's where I stand with this right now.
Okay, all righty. Thank you. We have two people that wish to speak, Patrick and Janet Fisher. Take your time now. And we have someone on the phone. Ashley, do you know if they're for or against on this one? I'm assuming they're in opposition. Okay.
State your name.
I'm Patrick Fisher.
And I'm Janet Fisher, and Mr. Penton did not do any work for us. He said he was going to cut trees down on his property, nothing he did for us.
It doesn't matter.
But anyway, go ahead.
Okay,
Each time
please
we come
speak into
here-
the mic for me, please, and address the council.
Okay.
Each time we come here, sir, we've mentioned the ruling on our subdivision. That's our covenant, and that's a law. It can't be broken. The state told us yesterday and this morning that that's a covenant, and it cannot be overwritten by the parish or by the state without going through the Supreme Court. So as far as splitting the property, it can't be done. I'm waiting for the state's attorney's office to call me tomorrow in reference to this, but as far as the Board of Health, the state of Louisiana says no. It's a covenant, it's a law, just
And-
like they
and it
have in
can't be
Goshen,
broken.
Greenleaves, everywhere else. It's a law, and it cannot be overwritten.
And it goes with the chain of title, and it's
Right.
specifically
And if-
from
If it's not on
1965.
your, if the man told me, if it's not on his paperwork when he got it, that's his fault for not knowing the law. That's all I got to say. It's a law, and you can't break the law.
Well,
But
well,
it's
well,
been on, it's
I
been,
understand your opinion, but just go ahead and speak.
it's been in there since 1965. It was on the original map. It's on a deed from 1984 where our neighbors purchased, and it was on one when they sold it and purchased it in 2017. It's still on there. So that covenant should stand. If not, why do they make restrictive covenants in these subdivisions? What is the good of
It's a
that?
state law.
They put them in there for a reason, do they not? This was put in there by the Louisiana Department of Public Health
Okay,
about the sewer system.
okay, all right.
That's why we're opposing it, and I don't think it's right that somebody can come in and change everything when it's been on there since 1965. I just don't think so. Whether he was working with anybody or not, it doesn't matter. It should be the benefit for the whole subdivision and
That's
not
what
just
the
for
law
one
was put in
person.
To protect us.
So that's what we got to say. And I would appreciate it if y'all would give it another thought and decide on it, or
Well,
let us
we'll do-
research
we-
it some more.
We're going to do just that. We're going
Okay.
to discuss it.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Thank you
you,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you very much for coming. Ashley, we have someone on the phone.
I'm sorry,
We have someone on the phone.
Ashley Poche.
Ashley, good evening. Thank you for calling, and you have the floor. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, we are also against this rezoning, and we as well live right on the other side of that property, and nobody has ever approached us. We actually showed up to the zoning meeting to appeal it, and I know the neighbor across the street is opposed to it too. I believe he may be on the phone as well. I just don't see rezoning this whole area for one person's financial gain. We just purchased this property. Throwing two mobile homes decreases my property value.
Okay, Ashley, thank you. If you don't mind, if you can hold on, because we'll have rebuttal and things like that if you wish to speak also, okay?
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for calling. Troy? Mr. Troy Green?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir. This is Troy Green.
Yes, sir. You go right ahead.
Yes, I live on 69335 Blueberry Loop, and I'm against the zoning change.
Okay, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And if you wish, please hang on, and
Okay.
we'll have the rebuttal if you want to, come back and say anything.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Tanner, would you like to do the rebuttal, ma'am?
Mr. Penton reached out to me and about this when Mr. Tanner was ill, and I think it may have been right after he died because he'd been working with Mr. Tanner on it, and he was very clear. As he came here at the last meeting, he's a pretty well-known developer. He had looked at this property. He had gone and gotten preliminary approvals, went around to people in the neighborhood and asked about it. Some of the people that are on the phone have actually bought after he bought the property with this intention that he'd already applied for this re-subdivision, and now want to say, no, you can't do it, even though he had bought it before them. So I think that's where some of the confusion is. As far as what's on his title, if it's something on his title, then that doesn't have anything to do with us. We can change zoning, and that's an issue that he either won't get his approval if it's a state health issue with his septic tank, or it's something that the individual landowners will have to deal with. Generally, a covenant from 1965 is normally not something that's they're only good for 2 years if they're not actively enforced. But so I think from Mr. Penton's perspective, he went in there, did a lot of work, bought the property, got caught up in the pandemic with things getting postponed. Some other people have been there and built, and now he's getting told he can't do what he was originally set out to do in purchasing this property. And I know Ms. Tanner knows the area a lot different, but from what Mr. Penton tells me, there's a lot of similar buildings in this area, so this isn't something that's totally out of character for the area. But that's my understanding of the situation. And
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Aaron. Ms. Tanner, do you have anything else, ma'am? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Patrick and Miss Janet, take your time. There's no hurry. Please take your time.
Would have been nice if Mr. Penton would have been here himself. However,
Yes, ma'am.
there are no
Go ahead.
houses, there are no houses around like what he's trying to put in. Miss Poche, they have a big brick house. We have a nice house. Troy has a big brick house. Mr. Hollingsworth has a nice brick house. There is no mobile homes. There's one on the corner, and it's a nice one. We don't have a problem with a mobile home coming in there. It's the fact that they want to put two, and they're going to be rentals, and our property value is going to go down. And as far as him going around and asking everybody, I was putting my trash can out, and he said, I bought the property next to you. I want to put a mobile home as a rental. And I told him, good luck with that. And that was what I said. So he did not get my approval.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I wish he would be here so that I could tell him. But
Thank you, ma'am.
you're welcome.
Thank you,
Did
sir.
you want to say anything?
Miss Ashley on the phone, Ashley? Would you like to comment, ma'am? We have a few minutes left.
Yes, I would like to comment. We purchased this property right before the pandemic went on, and he had not yet went in with his application to get it rezoned. So when I purchased my property, it was zoned this way. And that's one of the reasons that we bought in this area, to not have multiple families right on top of us and rental houses. Apparently, he's well connected to have other people speak for him. This is so very important to him. He doesn't even show up. I mean, yeah, I know that the pandemic did delay this, but I do not believe that he did this before I purchased my property, because it didn't happen until after I was here.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Troy? Troy?
Yes, sir. I've been here for about 5 years now, and I just remodeled my home, which is one nice brick home that sits here. It's a very quiet neighborhood. I did see when Mr. Penton did acquire the property. I walked over there and asked him, what is he doing? What is he said? I'm going to put a trailer. I said, okay, well, I mean, if that's what the zoning requires. I mean, but I don't want to look at 5 trailers when I just put 20,000 in renovations. The neighborhood has been very quiet. It's been like that for the last 5 years that I've been here. I just think that he's going about it the wrong way. I mean, if a man needs a place to stay, I understand that. And I don't want to have to walk out my house and get my property value depreciated behind multiple trailers that he's going to put in here. We have Mr. James Hollandworth. He's a man that stays across the street, across from me. He's very ill. He's old. He barely comes outside, and it's just, with multiple families in here, I fear that we would get the wrong crowd in here and, cause chaos in this quiet neighborhood.
Thank you, Troy, and you just about used the time. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go to the 2-minute conclusion. Is there any questions from any member of the council? Ms. Casaban? You go right ahead.
Is it on?
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay.
She'll get you.
This is one of those tough situations I think Ms. Tanner has been placed into because she came in a little bit late on this. But if I remember correctly, when Mr. Penton was here, he stated that he is a developer and that he didn't really care one way or the other. Yes, he did go in and do some work and stuff like that, but following all of that he said that he did not care how we voted on it. So I took it as this is an investment, and that it would be he really didn't care one way or the other. I don't know. Did anybody else? Did you remember that, Mr. Davis? That he had stated that in this case, if the zoning is already the A1. It'll have to be up to Ms. Tanner to decide whether or not that we would change the zoning to allow for the 2 trailers, which would be commercial. When we were on planning and zoning, we really had a thing about actually rezoning property for, in a way, commercial use. And in this instance where he would be renting them, I feel like that would be commercial too. But if he talked to some of the neighbors, but it sounds like he has not met all of them yet. So I'll concur with whatever Ms. Tanner decides.
Thank you. Jimmy, did you want to say? I saw you reaching there, so you don't have to. But.
Well, yes, I would, because it's an interesting concept here, because it's one of those fine lines where all you're really requesting is for an A2 to A3 rezoning. So you can put another manufactured home on there. The situation is in the A2, you can also, in any A2, you can go ahead and put an additional 1,000 square foot home anyway. It can be added to the same property, unless he wants to put a bigger mobile home. So it's almost like a 2-for-1 anyway. So you could have 2 mobile homes on the same property without even changing the zoning if the other mobile home was less than 1,000 square foot. So whatever Ms. Tanner wants to do is fine with me.
I got you. Thank you. I have one question to Emily, if you don't mind. Mr. Archery gave us a pretty description, a good picture of the legal side of it. I mean, is he correct? I mean, I'm sure we can change this, but I just want to at least throw it out there for your opinion.
Right, and as we've discussed before in public meetings, the parish council generally does not enforce private covenants on lands. And in this case, what we're looking at specifically is the zoning, or the rezoning of this case from A2 to A3. whether there's anything in those covenants related to re-subdivision of lots is really not what's before the council tonight. It's really a question of density from A2 to A3. So I just remind the council that that's what you're voting on tonight.
Well, thank you, and I just wanted, means that was stated, I just wanted to have it from our legal. Any other questions? Seeing no questions, do you have any motion or anything, Ms. Tanner?
As Martha said, this is a very tough decision.
I am going to honor my husband's request and ask for an override of the denial.
Okay. We have a motion by Ms. Tanner for, to override. Is there a second? It's seconded by Mr. Jimmy Davis. We have motion and a second. Please vote. Thank
The
you.
motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you. I need a motion, Ms. Tanner, motion by Ms. Tanner and second by Mr. Jimmy Davis. I don't need to vote for that. Thank you. Thank you, Emily, for the legal opinion. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am?
I would like to ask a question. What exactly do the restricted covenants in the subdivision mean? What does that mean?
Ma'am, I
Why
understand.
do they put that in there if nobody's going to honor them?
That, we didn't put it in there, and all we're telling you is what we are doing and able to do tonight. I'm sure I have a subdivision that has covenants in it, and every subdivision does. That does not
I
preclude.
realize that.
That does not preclude us from changing a zoning, okay?
Well, and this other gentleman said that they were only good for 2 years.
Right.
The neighbors bought their house
Ma'am,
in 2017.
I thank you.
I'm going to say my piece.
No. You had every right, and you had your time to say your piece, and I was very grateful about that. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll go to number 6. Thank you. Six and 7. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have number 6 and number 7. We have Mr. Art Lancaster appealing the zoning commission denial on August 4th, 2020 to rezone 175.13 acres located on the west side of Louisiana Highway, south of Dove Park Road and Campbell Avenue, Mandeville, from A-1 Suburban District and HC2 Highway Commercial District to A-3 Suburban District, A-4 Single Family Residential, and A-5 Two Family Residential District. This is Ward 5 and District 5 in Mr. Tanner's district. And
Mr. Toledano's district.
Mr. Toledano, I'm sorry. And Mr. Lancaster? Yes, sir. Please come on out. Okay, sure. Excuse me 1 second, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, and you have 10 minutes, you know how that's going to go, so you go ahead and state your name, and please go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Leanne Batson. I'm here on behalf of the developer, Mr. Lancaster, and the property owners, and we also have our consulting engineer here.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a request for a planned unit development, and so it's very important that you remember that this is the first step in a multi-step process. So we are asking for the underlying zoning to be changed and the PUD's concept approval to be approved so that the council does have control over the future development of the property. The first step in the process, which is what we are here for tonight, is just for y'all to decide, is the underlying land use that we're asking for a reasonable request, given that the existing zoning, which is the A1, which only allows one dwelling for 10 acres, would allow the property owners a reasonable use of their land. The PUD gives the council an assurance that the promises that are made by the developer and the development that the neighbors are being told is going to be put in place are in fact put in place. So it's an extra tool that y'all have to make sure that it's an integrated development. We could have come in with small sections of small parcels so that it would have less of an impact, but the PUD allows the parish to adopt a comprehensive plan for this fairly large parcel. Now, every opponent is going to come in and make the same arguments that, well, we're concerned about traffic, we're concerned about drainage, and we're concerned about that too. And that's why the developer has agreed with regard to the traffic to build the Judge Tanner extension all the way out to Judge Tanner Boulevard to give a separate ingress and egress to this property. With regard to the drainage, they've agreed to build a regional detention pond. Both of these improvements are to benefit not only his development, but the surrounding area as part of the parish studies and the parish plans. And so basically what we're asking for tonight is that you follow your plan. This property isn't going to remain undeveloped, and so it can either be developed in a piecemeal way with small parcels, or it can be developed as part of a comprehensive plan. There will be future steps along the way where they have to come back to you for their final development plan. And so the finer points as far as the construction drawings, all that is going to come back to you. And this is just the first step. We just need that first approval or that first acknowledgement that the planned unit development is the best land use and the best way to proceed with development of that property, because it's not going to stay undeveloped. With regard to the specific PUD that they've proposed, it is single-family residential. It is in keeping with the surrounding character of the neighborhoods. None of the other lots that are near this property are one house per 10 acres. They're all higher densities. The other concern is that the staff had noted is the sewer and water. As I stated, this is just the first step. They cannot tie into the sewer system. They cannot tie into the water system unless during the future development phase, they bring those systems up to capacity. Just this land use designation is not going to entitle them to tie into the sewer system without sufficient capacity. They will have to expand that system if the detailed studies determine that that's necessary. So basically, nobody likes to sit in traffic. We understand that. And that's why they're proposing the Judge Tanner extension, which is part of the parish's plan. It has been for years, and this will get that done. Nobody wants their property to flood. He doesn't want his future lot purchasers' property to flood. They will have to take care of that, and the regional detention plan will not only take care of that, detention pond, it will improve drainage in the area. The other staff note was about the green space. Yes, the green space is clustered closer to the southern part of the development, but that's where the neighboring properties are. The developer is setting aside 26% of this parcel for green space. That's very unusual, and it's not required by y'all's PUD regulations. But it is in the best interest of the community. So basically, that's what we're asking you tonight, is consider not just, the opposition of a few neighboring property owners who perhaps would prefer for the property to remain undeveloped, but what's in the best interest of the constituents that you serve and the neighboring property owners whose traffic and drainage will in fact be improved by this development. If any of y'all have any questions, the consulting engineer is also here tonight.
A brief procedural observation. We have two numbered appeals on the agenda. I don't know whether it's the chairman's wish to ask this lady to speak to both of those at one time.
No, we're gonna
Okay.
do one at a time, Mr. Toledano.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, I have about 15 cards and I don't know how y'all want to handle that, but we have a 10-minute time, so I'm just going to go through them until it runs out, unless there's someone that, is going to be the speaker for everyone, and that's fine too. But I'll start it, and I'll just call the cards that I have, and you, as we're going forward, you can look at it, and then when we run, if you go past the time, all I'm going to do is call the name and just ask y'all to stand up if you're in opposition to it, so everybody will get recognized, okay? So the first one we have is Miss Nancy Wagner. She's not here? Okay. Deborah Hebert? Deborah? Hebert? Can't see it? Okay. Margie? Vickner? I don't see Margie either. Unless they're outside, I don't know. Gary Chasson? Gary? Bruce Nuss? Yes, sir. Well, you won the lottery, Bruce.
Yes, my name is Bruce Nuss. I live at 26 Jamie Lane, and I'm to the west side of the development, and I have a zone that's A2, so I'm right next to what she said there wasn't many around, so I'm right next to it, and the proposed area has 6 lots. But I have a statement to read, and it's going to be about 3 minutes with respect to everybody else. So we understand that the landowner is entitled to develop land as purchased. However, the request for high-density rezoning is in complete contrast to the 2009 comprehensive rezoning already established. While they have the right to develop as currently zoned, they are not guaranteed the right to rezone if the results will be detrimental to the neighboring land. The maps included in the emails that I've sent each of you today strongly suggest that this would be the case. Between Dove Park Road and Sharp Road is about 700 acres of land. The area is the last remaining pine savanna habitat in this area, and parts of the land were determined to be the highest wetland value or pristine for a reason. If you look at the maps, soil types, wetland, hydrology, flood insurance, aerial maps, or pictures of recent rain events, it is clear that this area's wetlands serve as a critical drainage area for the parish. Many of the subdivisions approved to be built were approved under the premise that this area would remain low density, highly treed, and preserved land. The entire area is the last critical piece of this area's drainage and flood protection and should be reviewed comprehensively, not piecemealed, and should be placed under moratorium until a comprehensive study can be completed. Many neighbors and homes would be impacted by losing this functioning stormwater drainage. As Zoning Commissioner McGinnis stated in the September 1st meeting, flooding is the real issue downstream. If you look at drainage downstream, you have 3 predominant drainages: Ponchatoula Creek, Tetlors, and North Chinchuba Bayou. All of these flow westward across 190 and also across Sharp Road into other subdivisions far away from what we are considering, such as Tall Timbers, Beau Chene, Audubon Lake, as well as Lockmere and others. And it is all built out. If you look at an aerial, you'll see the drainages. They don't have any floodplain anymore. They are all built out of extremely narrow floodplains or none at all. And that was comments from Ms. McGinnis. A personal example, the back half of my 2-acre property on the west side of this proposal development was designated as wetlands. In 2005, we built accordingly, respecting this designation and the sensitive natural environment of the area. It was left uncleared, unfilled, and when it rains, a river of water rushes down the natural slope of our property to this area of wetlands where it collects and sits 2+ feet deep for several days, even with no additional rainfall. This space is now being proposed high density and filled. It would create a dam where the river of water would obviously have no place to go. The parish government and the council's duty is to those of us who live in the developed areas which will be impacted by all future rezoning considerations. The parish is obligated to those who have already invested in this area, many in surrounding subdivisions already suffering the results of inadequate drainage. While these wetlands are precious to the current residents and voters, they are not always as precious to the developers. They are a nuisance, sometimes to be mitigated and bargained with. As Ms. McGinnis said about this area, it's an extensive area of wetlands and a stormwater storage area for the region. If we approve this and other proposed projects in this area, we are going to cause significant flooding in many subdivisions downstream. We really need to do hydraulic modeling for this region, or we're going to harm citizens and cost the parish quite a lot of money to repair. Again, these words are from a zoning commissioner and respected hydrologist. So I oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mike Smith.
I'm going to go real quick.
Mike, just state your name for us for the record.
My name is Mike Smith.
And address, please.
I live 1910 Garin Drive in Mandeville.
Thank you, sir.
I belong to the Church of Christ that is right there, the Tammany Oaks Church of Christ. And we have a map. I have copies of it I'd love to give to you. And every map that I've seen, every aerial picture of this development, they show that they're going to use some of our property. We've got the deed to this property. I'm willing to say that everybody makes honest mistakes. If you're making a mistake at this point of the operation on a development this size, what other mistakes have they made? We're not planning on selling any of our property. We never have received any offers from them, and we're not planning on it. I have walked from our property all the way back through the trace, through that land you're talking about, like 20 years ago, and I saw during rains, water just sits there, doesn't go anywhere. And there was a reason zoning people put in years ago 1 house per 5 acres. The two plots of land right behind our land are 5-acre lots, and they called them farms back in the day when they sold them. But there's a reason for that. And if you would like to know the real reason, walk back there. When we built our building, we allowed for a large pond on probably 40% of our 7 acres to take care of our runoff. And it has. It's helped the situation some. But do I see 40% set aside? No. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Robert Ransing. Robert?
Hello, my name is Robert Racine. I live at 15 Jamie Lane. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm going to be as quick as I can. I'm
Yes,
glad
sir.
that the appellate used the term comprehensive, because I want to remind you that back in 2008, 9, and 10 timeframe, we went through something very comprehensive. A lot of petitions, a lot of meetings, a lot of expert testimony, a lot of consideration. In fact, that land at that time was zoned rural agricultural, and what was proposed at that time was a T&D on the west side, not their land, and their land, there was a proposal for A4 and A4A zoning, and that was ultimately rejected by the zoning commission and then by this council. A lot of you were on there and rejected it. So that was the comprehensive plan. The problem is that it's not being viewed as a comprehensive plan. In fact, the counsel for the appellate last zoning meeting said that it was a placeholder until something could be done. And that's the problem. This placeholder is there, and it's just dangled in front of developer after developer, right? And they see money. They see and who doesn't, right? You want to make money on your property. That's what you want to do. But they see this, and it's a false hope in a way, unless you're going to railroad all of the developers, all the people I've been there 20 years, right? If you're going to do that, then maybe it's not a false hope. But it was done for a reason. 1 house per 5 acres. At some point, possibly there will be development there that's going to be sensible and reasonable, and I think we would support that. I could see somebody doing a PUD that ended up with an A2 density in that area. Now, here's the thing. If that density is not appropriate and the landowner feels like they're going to be they're going to suffer a hardship or a loss because they can't recover their value, then what usually needs to be done in that situation is that land needs to be taken out of commerce. Okay? So we have to make a decision that is not going to be a placeholder so that people can have, I don't want to come here every year to do this, right? And the other thing is that PUD that's going to be put in place. If that PUD fails, that zoning still remains as you zone it today. So it will be A4. It will be A4A. And then it's developable piecemeal at that level. So let's be careful what we do here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Robert Trincoso? Robert? You don't have much time, but I know you can do it.
No,
so
I'd like to
you
defer
go
to item number 7, please.
Oh, sure. Ambrose Ramsey? Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to use that 55 seconds? Let's do it that way. Come on up, sir. And just state your name so I can pull your card.
Charlie Houlihan, 266 DeVal Drive.
Thank you, Tom.
I had 2 things or 3 things that were already covered. The purchase of the church property, which was already addressed by the member of the church that it did not exist. The other thing I'd like to ask about, the drainage has already been covered. The final thing is this Judge Tanner Drive to Highway 59 purchase, and how do you guys as parish people, has that been approved? Is that process already underway? Because that seems to be one of the key things that support this whole development, that they allow for egress and ingress, not just on 59. That's just the last question and the only thing I'd like to bring up.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, I have a whole bunch of cards, and what we'll do is I'll go to those on number 7 because 6 and 7 are related, and we'll use those. So what I'll do now is go to the 3-minute rebuttal. And Ms. Leanne, do you want to come up, or does the developer?
I would just like to make the point that, as the opponent said, it's a beautiful pine savanna habitat and a wetland. If the parish wants to set aside this property as a pine savanna habitat or a wetland watershed for drainage for the parish needs to buy it. As private property, the owner is allowed to develop the property and they're allowed to make reasonable use of the property. One house per 5 acres so that it can serve as a watershed for the rest of the parish is not a reasonable use of the property. And again, we understand that the neighboring property owners are concerned about drainage. The developer and they don't want to flood their neighbors. That is why they are proposing a regional detention pond that will address the drainage issues, not only for this property, but for the surrounding property. If these two items we don't want one approved without the other. We know we need both. And the bottom line is, with the PUD, that doesn't give them the right to build one thing. They have to come back to this council with their final development plan to show exactly what they're building and exactly where they're putting it, and they'll have to address all those things at that permit stage. So this is just the first step.
Thank you, ma'am. If the project engineer or somebody else wants to come up, you still have some time. Okay. We had 3 minutes on the other side. I'm going to go to the same gentleman that came up before, Robert. Robert?
Robert T. or Robert R?
Okay. Oh, Ransom, Robert Ransom. Rancy, Robert Rancy.
Thank you. With respect to the PUD and the idea of the use of the PUD, we all understand, we're used to PUDs, right? We've been doing PUDs for a long time. They can be really, really good. The problem with the PUD that is proposed here is that it takes maximum use of every bit of land that is there, and it creates a density that is incredibly concentrated in one area. And what's going to happen is that, you know how development works. They build a house. The first thing they do is they clear the land, they cover it with red clay. So that red clay is going to be there as a cap. It's not permeable. It doesn't drain very well straight down. It doesn't absorb. It sheds. It's going to shed to the side. But 60 feet, 70 feet to the side, there's another cap of red clay and another cap of red clay. And what's not covered in red clay is going to be covered in concrete. And there's not going to be a lot of green area. With respect to where they have the retention area placed at the bottom of this, that is the headwaters of Chinchuba. That area right there is undevelopable right now practically. That's why it's in there. They chose the junk land, and they put the junk land in the place. Now, a green space is supposed to be a space that is developable, that can be used by the public. We can walk there, we can traverse it, the kids can play. That's what a PUD green space is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be the junk land that's undevelopable that we couldn't fill, set aside to count as the 20%, which is required. So we understand PUDs here. We've been doing this a long time. They can be very, very good, but this one's too dense. And you made that decision a long time ago. Let's not, you did that for a reason. You did that because the wetlands are sensitive. It wasn't just arbitrary. So let's not keep having this fight all the time.
Thank you. Bruce?
Well, the first thing that the opponent said, it was that it's an A1 was going to be 10 acres per, well, it's 5. We all know that. Secondly, I don't think she is the person or them saying one detention problem is going to solve this very fragile, delicate area. It really is. It's more than that, and I promise you, one detention pond won't do the job. It needs to be evaluated. It needs to be looked at and figure out if it's A1 and it's one house per, and maybe you might not be able to even develop on certain areas because of the wetlands. I know, I'm telling you, there's wetlands and it would cause significant flooding in my situation. I guarantee it. And I'd love to be able to show you people how and where I'm situated. But I think this is just such an important area. It is a watershed area, and it needs to be, as Ms. McInnes said, it needs to be comprehensively looked at, and she's the hydrologist, and she made that determination to give it a closer look. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Toledano, would you like me to go into number 7, and then you can make your comment on both of them? And
I think that's an excellent idea. I'd rather reserve my comment
Yes,
and
sir.
get both of these issues on the table. And certainly you would charge us to vote for each one individually. But
Yes, sir.
I think to complete the discussion round first would be in order.
That'll be great. Okay. I'm going to read number 7. Art Lancaster appealing the zoning commission denial on August 4, 2020 to rezone 220.22 acres located on the west side of Louisiana Highway 59, south of Dove Park Road and Campbell Avenue, Mandeville, from A-3 Suburban District, A-4 Single Family Residential District, and A-5 Two-Family Residential District to A-3 Suburban District, A-4 Single Family Residential, and A-5 Two-Family Residential District, PUD, Plan Unit Development Overlay, Ward 5, District 5. Ms. Leanne, would you, or if somebody, yes, sir.
My name's Tim Dino.
I'm sorry, what, Tim?
Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
379 Orchard Road, River Ridge, 70123.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I'm a member of DeVal Incorporated, the subject property landowner, which is named for the Dino and Vallon families, who have had a presence in St. Tammany for about 100 years. We've owned the subject property since the 1950s, and our focus has always been on helping the community by contributing in ways we can. That's why in 2002, DeVal donated to the parish a 120-foot right-of-way extending from Highway 59 to the western boundary of our land for what was then Fairway Drive, now Judge Tanner Boulevard. At the same time, DeVal donated 26 acres designated for a detention pond, which DeVal agreed to build as long as the parish built Fairway Drive within 5 years. Those 5 years became 10 years in 2 administrations, assuring us that the entire Fairway right-of-way was acquired and the funds were reserved for the project. Engineering plans for the project were shared with us. However, other than a bike path from the trace to Highway 59, no other improvements were made. Fast forward to 2014. The parish returned our right-of-way, and the 26-acre water detention area has become a memory now, due to both the Davis and Brister administrations never extending Judge Tanner Boulevard through the right-of-way. While neighboring subdivisions are complaining about poor drainage and traffic issues, the parish has failed to implement a solution. DeVal is and always has been striving to work with the parish to improve traffic and drainage issues. In 2018, Lancaster Development LLC proposed to buy and develop most of DeVal. After many meetings with Robert Troncoso, a neighborhood advocate, and Riker Toledano, the district councilman, a plan was made per their guidance. And I say per their guidance is more per their directive than guidance, and submitted only to be voted down at the August 4th Zoning Commission meeting this year. I met with these two 4 or 5 times and was stood up at least once and had many phone calls ignored, subsequently to be told Reichert will not talk until after the election. Later, this proved contrary to the phone calls received 3 times a day from Reichert, stating his need for us to withdraw our appeal. For the people in opposition to the Cotton Creek development, you need to congratulate Troncoso and Toledano for killing this project. You won the battle. However, I believe you lost the war. When you flood, when a neighbor or friend is adversely affected by the inadequate size and design of Sharp, Lonesome, and Dove Park roads, when you need access to Lakeview Regional Hospital faster than you presently can, you may think of Troncoso and Toledano in a different light. Again, you lost the war. DeVal's acres of undeveloped land can and should be utilized. We firmly believe this because the plans to develop would not only improve travel routes and accessibility, but would alleviate some of the drainage issues neighboring communities face. And now, weeks and months after being told that he will not discuss this issue until after the election and subsequently being stood up for a meeting only to wait on a rainy day in his parking lot, Reichert feels the need to call 3 times a day to request that we should withdraw our appeal. Something's wrong with this process. Please understand that I am a member of DeVal. My ownership and influence is small. I'm here speaking not on behalf of the Dino, Valon, or other families who make up DeVal. I'm not even speaking on behalf of DeVal Incorporated. I'm here as an individual who knows the facts and has seen 2, now 3 administrations hide behind requests for drainage and traffic studies rather than curing the issues. And as far as the prior zoning, the property west of the Trace, prior to the rezoning of the parish, was a PUD with commercial application also. So those are the facts. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Still have, the appellant still has 5 minutes. Ms. Leanne?
I won't belabor the point. I would just like to remind the council that we have been working on this for over a year. We've met with the neighboring property owners, the council representative, the planning staff, numerous occasions. This wasn't rushed through. This was a comprehensive plan that was developed through the course of those meetings. And it was designed to mitigate every potential impact and, in fact, make the public health, safety, and welfare concerns to address them and improve them. And we ask for your consideration and your support in overturning the commission's decision.
Thank you, ma'am. You still have 4, but I don't think anybody else from that side. Okay, we'll do the same thing. I'm going to call on the cards that I did not call on number 6 there so that almost everyone will get to speak. Mr. Allen, Matthew?
Thank you, Chairman Lorino. I'm Matthew Allen, Executive Director of North Shore River Watch. I've been asked to speak on this because I have a fair amount of experience with the floodplain management and the environmental issues. My address is 13058 Major Lane, Folsom, Louisiana. And first off, one of the reasons we're here is they did not submit all the required documents. They state that in the previous documents from the zoning. They didn't submit the wetlands and flood zones. And that's really one of the reasons we're here. And people have talked about the last remaining wetlands law. But I wanted to point out that in 2004, there was actually a study for Judge Tanner Extension. And that most of this is either wetlands or hydric soils. And it also shows the need for the retention pond. Now, the 25% green space they talked about, a lot of that's not buildable because that is part of a tributary to Chinchuba Creek. Now, to say it's not in a flood zone would be disingenuous. The flood insurance study of 1989, which I just read again today, states that they did not study this area. They studied Bayou Tet Lors, stopped at Lock Street, or just above Lock Street. Bayou Chinchuba only studied the main branch, not the tributary that runs through this. So they don't even know what the flood zones are here. It needs to be studied. 600 plus houses is really too dense for a wetland area that is a catch basin for the headwaters of Bayou Tetlors and a good bit of the drainage for Bayou Chinchuba. Leaving it at A1 is not taking the property out of commerce. It's protecting the citizens. You must study the effects of doing this. Also, I wanted to point out that there's a sewage issue. The Tchefuncte Basin is listed on the DEQ's 303D list for impaired waterways for oxygen-demanding substances. This inspired what's called Total Daily Maximum Load Study, finished in 2012, which does not allow the implementation of it in order to try to improve the Tchefuncte River, does not allow new or increased treatment water into the Tetlors of Ponchatoula Creek area. So how are you going to treat 600 homes worth of sewage? That works out to about 240,000 gallons a day, according to the using 400 gallons per home per day from the DEQ. The parish has had 8 years to address this critical infrastructure problem, not just the drainage, but the sewage for the area. You still have a lot of homes with septic systems in this area. 8 years this parish council has kicked this down the road. And now you're going to have problems with DEQ getting it approved for more sewage treatment into this system. Also, finally, please take a look at staff comments. They talk about unavoidable and dangerous impacts to the area with this density of development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Ms. Lowe, Joycelyn Lowe. I'm sorry? Yes, sir. You coming up on, did you fill out a card, sir? Yes, I did. Okay. What's the name? Chris Jordan. Chris? Yes, sir. Come on up. Have it. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. My name is Chris Jordan. I live at 272 Highland Drive in Duval. You know, we have a lot of concerns with this development. Primarily, I'm going to focus on the development part in between the Trace and Highway 59. That whole area right now is zoned either A1 or Highway Commercial, depending on where the land is. They are proposing to change this to an A4A or A5A high-density townhome, and it really doesn't make a lot of sense right there. That whole land is currently, according to the Ag Center firm maps, in AE flood zone. It's also identified on St. Tammany Parish's critical flood drainage areas as being a critical flood drain area. Excuse me. And also, the upper Bayou Chinchuba starts right there. All of the water from the middle of Duval and from basically Campbell Drive flows to upper Bayou Chinchuba right there and has to go underneath the Trace. I just don't see how that's a comprehensive zoning that's in light with the area. Our zoning is A3. The other properties right by us are either A2 or A3. So definitely in addition to this, also, this came up at the zoning commission. For a year, people have been about this. Our subdivision, if they own what they think they own, would be 40 feet from the proposed development. But nobody's ever talked to anybody in our subdivision. So I just don't see how we can get up here and say, we've done this for a year and talk to everybody. It just doesn't make any sense. Because they don't own 3 acres that adjoins our property. And they clearly identify it on their map as being part of the development. So I am in opposition to this change right now.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Leslie John Furrow.
Hi, my name is Leslie Jonfro. I live at 408 Sparrow Street, and I'm in opposition to this appeal. For all the factors that people talked about, drainage, sewage, all of that we see, the traffic. The traffic, we talk about 59, but getting in and out by the hospital, say 4:30 in the afternoon, is just incredibly difficult, as well as early in the morning. One of the things I heard them say is that you know, they get to use the land how they want, which is true, but they bought it when the zone was something else. So I don't see why we need to change the zoning to what they want. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Mary Beth?
Just registered opposition.
Okay, thank you, sir. Charlie? Thank you. John DeRoche, Derek? Oh, thank you, sir. Robert Troncoso?
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead, give it a shot.
Okay. My name is Robert Troncoso. I live at 230 Lockmere Drive in Mandeville. I have a prepared speech
Go ahead.
written out, but I'd like to address, since my name was brought up.
Yes, sir. You have 4 minutes. Go, you choose whatever way you want to go, sir.
All right, well, first of all, we were involved, Mr. Toledano asked some of the residents' representatives to get involved in this, working with him as well as the developer to try to see what, come up with something that would potentially work.
Yes, sir.
We went to independent engineering firms, got recommendations from those people to come up with a plan, an idea. We came back to them with that plan. But this was early on in the year, a latter part of last year, actually. And what occurred over the last 6 months prior to now that changed my position relative to what we had originally recommended to them was several things. One specifically was what I didn't know at the time and was never discussed was the full extent of the wetlands on that property and the disposition of specifically the 220 acres in item number 7. During this time period, the parish had experienced a significant amount of rain and rain events that flooded different areas of the parish substantially. And as a result of that, I also found out that part of the plan that they had in place, or was the proposed plan, did not address the issue of water on the western edge of their property, that being the area where Jamie Lane was, which is a part of an area off of Rio Road, as well as we took a very hard look at the drainage of water coming from Fox Run, which is on the western side of Lockmere subdivision. The combination of additional pressure of water coming from the west side, from Jamie down, not being addressed in the plan, as well as combining that with the water from Fox Run from the west, coming into Lockmere subdivision, into the drainage ditch that is the artery of Chinchuba southward, became a real problem. So obviously from that standpoint, my position changed. It wasn't my intent. My intent all along when working with them was to try to come up with something that works. I am not an anti-development person. I developed commercial real estate for 30 years, and I believe in progress and growth smartly done. So that was my intent. And unfortunately, these things happened, and that changed my position. I only have 40 seconds. I'm not going to be able to complete. I would like to make my statement, though.
Well, we'll have 3 minutes to rebuttal, and I'll
Okay.
call on you to come in and start that, okay?
And I'll go from there.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
I don't think anybody used that 25 seconds, but, Ms. Leanne, we have 3 minutes, ma'am. I know you're getting tired going back and forth, but, or Tim, whoever, anybody.
Mickey Robertson, 9345 Interline, Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Mickey, thank you, sir.
I'm the project engineer. We have taken a lot of this stuff into consideration from a regional standpoint. There was a study done in 2006 that the parish commissioned that talked about the need for the regional drainage. We've looked at that study and we have designed, it's kind of flippantly referred to as just a detention pond, but it's a 25-acre regional detention facility that is in accordance with that regional drainage study. It does take into account everything from the west, everything from Fox Run. We've made allowances to make sure that drainage can continue to flow to the upper Chinchuba. We're aware of the impairment of the water bodies in the area. We've talked to St. Tammany Utilities about expanding some of the sewer treatment plants in the area. We understand that we have further work to do in regards to that, but at this point, as Ms. Leanne said earlier, we're trying to get past step one. We can't proceed with items on negotiating for Judge Tanner extension, for regional detention, expanding sewer facilities until we get past this step. We know there's a lot of work left to be done, but until we can get going, we're kind of sort of stuck in a rut there. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Leanne or Tim? No one else? Go ahead, ma'am.
As Mickey said, we just, all of these finer points in terms of the design, that all comes at the next step. And so we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, and there are other approvals that this will come back to this council. Under the PUD designation, the final development plan comes back through the Planning Commission office and to the council, so that the details in terms of the final wetlands delineation and the Corps of Engineers permits for all of those, the sewer with DEQ, all those permits will have to be obtained. Improvements will have to be made. They have not been designed at that point because this is the first step.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Robert? Yes, sir. Come on up. You have 3 minutes now. Okay.
The area that they're trying to develop on, more knowledge that we've learned about it, needs further study. There needs to be a comprehensive plan. It's not only this development piece, Mr. Dino's property, it's the other pieces that go along with that. Then there's the issue of traffic. The extension of Judge Tanner, that was the attractive portion of this whole proposal relative to the development. It was something that is needed to be done. But from my perspective at this stage of the game, we can't sacrifice the drainage issues. I passed out to you all what we're experiencing right now in Lockmere. And I can't look at my residents in the face and say, oh, sure, this new drainage plan is going to work, okay? No, I can't do that because the infrastructure in and of itself within our subdivision that is maintained by the parish needs to be upgraded to some extent and improved in order to make the water either flow quicker or create some other scheme in order to make it work. So basically, it's our position, and it is in representing Lockmere subdivision, we are looking at, if this project is approved to go forward, we are looking at a double-barrel shotgun coming right at us with water, and frankly, we can't handle any more. It's just that simple. And when Lockmere was originally developed, the developer also developed Fox Run next to us, to the west of us. He incorporated a large portion of Fox Run's drainage into Lockmere to drain into that artery that is Chinchuba to go southward. So not only are we taking in water from what would potentially be north of us on 220 acres developed on top of wetlands, we would also be, Fox Run would also be affected by it as well. It would increase the overall volume and velocity of water coming into our system. We have detention areas and overflow areas, and you see the pictures that I've given you of that. They're at capacity at this point in time. So we can't handle anything more.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I have three other cards that, two cards, Tim and Amber's. I know if you hear you're opposed, I'm just going to ask you that.
That's correct.
Okay. And Ramsey? Ms. Ramsey? Okay. And Tim? Dino? Okay. You opposed? Okay, thank you, I got it, Tim. Thank you. Okay, I think we went through 6 and 7 pretty well, and Mr. Toledano, I'm going to go to you and turn it over to you for a little while, sir.
Mr. Marino, thank you very much, and for those people that are here tonight on this particular very important case, I appreciate you being here. So some of Mr. Dino's comments were a little bit interesting, so I might just talk about those first. And the first is that Mr. Dino did not, underscore the word did not, to my best knowledge, attend all the meetings that we had on this. The second thing is, I know of nobody in this case that would have said Reichert will not talk to us after the election. That's a bald-faced joke, quite frankly, and I'm not sure where Mr. Dino got that from, but I've never hesitated to talk to anybody about this case. And so let me explain for those people in the audience. So I don't know where the heck, I should use the word heck because we're in public, he got that comment from. Nor am I afraid to talk to anybody else about it. But here's how I approach these things so it's very, very clear. Robert Tronsko and some other people in this community know this well. When somebody comes to me and says, I'm going to do something in your district, if I believe it to be a significant development, and this is certainly that as a minimum, I reach out to property owners and I do a lot of due diligence. And when the need is there, I meet with those individuals and try to incorporate interested nearby property owners, one, for notice purposes, and of course now we have the abutment notice ordinance, and that helps out, and two, to get input from the people who are on the ground there. And every meeting, almost to a T, starts out like this. I've explained, and I explained it many times in this, and for the couple of meetings that Mr. Dino was there, he might remember. I say, myself and the gentlemen who are participating in this, or ladies in some cases, have no authority in any respect. All we are doing is gathering information, providing some input, raising questions with you, but we have no authority at all. So Mr. Dino's comment again, and I can only presume that he misspoke. I don't guide anybody to how to build their subdivision, to the absolute contrary. They had a very competent lawyer, and I should say that Mr. Art Lancaster and Mr. Robertson were both perfect gentlemen during these meetings. They listened, they provided information, they were diligent in their attendance. Now, just so everybody gets squared away on this, I don't stand people up in meetings. Mr. Dino didn't get the message one time that a meeting was changed, and so be it that he showed up whether it was rain or shine. But this project has been vetted by myself and other people in this community and Mr. Lancaster's group to the absolute hill. We have spent an untold number of hours on this project. And And so let it be clearly known that the comments and the ultimate conclusion, which I offered in a professional courtesy basis to Mr. Paul Marone, that after looking at the entirety of the project, I did not feel that I could, in good conscience, approve this, vote for it. And as a professional courtesy, I called Mr. Marone and told him that. And I think he and I probably along the way spoke 2 or 3 times, because there's other projects that Mr. Marone represents people for. So I interact with him a great deal. And again, on a very professional basis, he responds to me and answers my questions and does whatever. So Mr. Dino was right about one thing he said. I sure in the heck told him that I was not in favor of this project. And as a courtesy to him, I said you would be wise to withdraw it. But this is America, he doesn't have to withdraw it. So with all that stuff having been said, most of which is not relevant, but I was a little surprised at some of those comments. The nice lady who made the argument in the stead of Mr. Marone tonight, we understand those arguments. The group that I met with your group, understands them very, very well. And I don't suggest to you or to Mr. Robinson or Mr. Lancaster, or for that matter, Mr. Dino, that there's something that doesn't work there. The answer is, I'm pretty sure something would work there. But one of the things that was emphasized along the way, a continuing concern was density. Another continuing concern was drainage. Another concern was traffic. So let's look at some of the numbers as I best remember them, and if I'm off a little bit, so be it. But this area, as it was presently zoned, would accommodate, in round numbers, 43 homes on the 220 acres, and you can do the ratios for the other section. They wanted to change it to 617 homes. I'd say that's just a little bit of an increase, right? So that automatically raises many flags that caused all these meetings and study to take place. I met with Mr. Liner's group. I met with Mr. Watson's group. I looked at this about as hard and carefully as anybody who is trying to do due diligence could. When they came to me at first, contrary again to what Mr. Dino might remember, is they didn't propose that we're going to extend Judge Tanner. Excuse me, they didn't propose it, period, once. I'm the guy who proposed that. And moreover, I told them that I don't think that was a cost burden that St. Tammany Parish should cover, that it should fall with the developer, at which time they did pick up that banner. But as we sit here tonight, nobody has brought to me a ironclad, we've got it, we've got the property, we've got the permission of the property owners, we got it. You got the Judge Tanner extension. I told them many times that there would be no way in God's green earth, and I don't mean to be respectful in saying that this project would ever be approved in the density that is set forth without that extension. Mr. Tronsko and the group that was sitting there remember those words for me many, many times. As we sit here today, as the appeal is before me today, they do not have it. The fact that they might get it and they think they're going to get it means nothing to me. I said before, you minimally ought to get letters of intent from the property owners, because it's not just their property. They did not do that. I'm told that Mr. Marone no longer represents it. But I'm sure in his diligence, that comment was conveyed. There were many, many issues that were discussed. Mr. Nuss, who spoke briefly today, participated in some of these meetings. And we met with, in fact, the staff, the engineering staff, Mr. Tronsko was present. There are some significant drainage issues, some of which does reflect a drainage pattern that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but it does have an impact on subdivisions such as Mr. Nuss. I said recently in a comment about my intention to do something on a broader scale in this area, what my concerns are. Those are the identical concerns that I have with this project as it is presently configured. And I carefully choose those words to say to these people that we think the reality is something's going to probably go there at some period of time. I do not think realistically nothing, underscore the words, will be the case at the end of the day. But this project has been vetted as much as a project can possibly be vetted. Again, underscore, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Lancaster, Mr. Marone were admirable advocates for their representatives. They did a good job. They moved stuff around. They made some provisions. They added stuff. It didn't come with all the stuff that Mr. Dino mentioned, but it did ultimately get in, and the young lady who has done a wonderful job tonight. But as this project is presently configured, I am absolutely convinced that it is totally unsuitable for the area. I said in my statement a couple of weeks ago that would be my recommendation that their appeal be denied. I could go into a minutia of detail because we might have actually spent together in my time and these gentlemen's time maybe 100 hours working on this, not just in our meetings, but outside those meetings. This project needs to be re-examined by them. The developmental pattern for that land needs to be re-examined for them. The pattern that they propose is not suitable today, certainly not in its present configuration, certainly not with the limited access. I think the density is wrong for the area. I don't think it does a service to the area. I think there are imminent drainage problems, despite the reference to some detention that is proposed. And again, without beating this horse to death, because I feel like I beat it to death for 100 hours already, I am going to urge my fellow council people to concur with my motion, to concur with the denial, and I so move. I can take any other questions you would like, but I think this is one that just does not pass muster with me. It doesn't pass muster with the community. It doesn't pass muster with, I think, the ultimate science as relates to drainage and traffic. And I might just mention this as an aside. When the project came to me originally, they were going to send all that traffic out to Highway 59 right across from Fontainebleau High School. I might have told Mr. Marone that they're crazy to do that, and that was probably pretty close to what I had to say. So ultimately, we did shepherd them to thinking about that Judge Tanner thing, but as of today, which is the 27th, am I correct? 23rd, excuse me, my running watch is off 4 days. They don't have it, and that's one of the problems. Density is another problem. I asked my fellow councilman to join me in concurring with the denial in both cases, but Mr. Lorino, you might want them voted on separately.
Thank you, Mr. Toledano. We'll vote on number 6, case number 2020-1852-ZC.
We need a second.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Toledano to concur with the denial, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Seeing no questions, please vote. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you.
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Number 7.
We need a resolution.
Okay, I need a motion Mr. Toledano makes the motion. Mr.
do.
Fitzgerald seconds it. To concur. All in favor? Thank you.
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Concur.
We now need to do number
We'll have
7.
number 7. Number 7 is, oh, we did number 7. Okay. No, we didn't.
We only voted
Okay.
on one, right?
Number 7, 1853-ZC. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you.
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
And I need a resolution. Okay, I need a motion. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Ms. Casaban. All in favor?
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to number 8. We'll go to number 8. Tammy Wimmer, appealing the zoning commission denial on August 4th, 2020, to rezone 1 acre located on the north side of Louisiana Highway 1078, west of Rebuttal Road, being 12555 Louisiana Highway 1078, Folsom, from A-1 Suburban District and RO Rural Overlay to A-1 Suburban District RO Rural Overlay and MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay, Ward 3, District 3. Miss Tammy?
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
My name is Tammy Wimmer. I live at 12555 Highway 1078, Folsom. I'm
Okay,
trying.
please, if you don't mind, let's keep it quiet or go outside. Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to replace a mobile home that I had on my property before. My mobile home burnt down. We faced numerous hardships that didn't give us the ability to replace the home at that time. I didn't know that there was a deadline that we had to do it within, I think it's 6 months is what I was told now. We're trying to just replace the mobile home. I have my pole, my well, my septic, everything is still there. We're just wanting to replace the home itself. Right now, I'm living with my mom, and the home is in major disrepair, and we just want a safe place to live, but we can't afford a modular, which would be the next option for us. So we were trying to replace the mobile home because it's what we could afford as a safe home.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, is there anybody else with you, going to speak on with you on this topic?
Not on before, no.
Okay, because I have one card that has nothing on it. Okay. We have a few. David Cooper, I believe it is. I can't see it. David?
I put my name down.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Jeanne?
Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Jean Ann Smith,
Hold on
Mayhall.
1 second for me, ma'am, if you don't mind. Yes, ma'am.
Good?
Yes, ma'am.
You need my name?
Yes, ma'am.
Jean Ann Smith, Mayhall. Address 78294 Oak Ridge Road in Folsom.
Thank you.
I am here representing a lot of people. I have a petition here. You probably don't want it because of COVID, but it probably has about 150 names on it, which was not easy to do during COVID. But we're out in the country, and I grew up in Mandeville and Covington. I know some of you. We've been put in a box where we have to oppose our neighbor. And that, I'm saying it like that because we went to zoning. It was unanimous vote on their part to not allow the manufactured home overlay which we rather feel is better called spot zoning. So our area on Bennett Bridge Road is, I'm sure you're familiar with it, it's beautiful, it's scenic, it's classic country, chickens and horses and cows out there, it's beautiful. And you guys, and I worked on the plan in 2003 with Henry Billiot and Red Thompson on getting everything rezoned out there, and they did a beautiful job. 5 acres, 1 home, A1, the whole bit, beautiful job. However, when a person like my neighbor, Tammy, has to come forward, she wants to put a mobile home, it's not zoned for mobile homes. So my argument is classic. I'm sure it is classic. It's called precedent setting. And I feel strongly that that is why zoning voted the way they did, because they had the same situation. So I would say to you guys, it's just as much a precedent setting on your part as it would be for us. Right now, we've had I could check with Martha on this, but I don't believe we've had a single overlay request be even put forward or approved out there on Bennett Bridge Road and the surrounding area there. This one is for 1 acre, mobile home on 1 acre, fronting Bennett Bridge. 2.5 miles down the road, that's allowed. On this area on Bennett Bridge, it is not allowed. So now we're being faced with this, even though Tammy is our neighbor. This has nothing to do with the people or the family or anything like that. This has to do with setting a precedent for the first time. So now we get a hole punched in the cheesecloth that is this overlay, and we have a mobile home here and one here and one here. I would say to you guys, how do you say no the next time if you say yes to my neighbor, to Tammy? You know, there are things we can do to help her solve the problem she has, but I have this, do you want this petition, or do you, probably not?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You can put it in the record. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you.
So, yes, we would like to ask you guys to uphold the vote of the zoning commission, which was unanimously, to not set a precedent in our area, please, and stick with the zoning that's out there. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank is. Richland, come on up, sir.
I'm Frank Richeron.
Yes, sir.
I live at 78219 Oak Ridge Road, Folsom, Louisiana, and I'm part of the group opposing this overlay. And I think Jean Ann said it properly. That's the way a group of at least 150 people in our neighborhood have signed a petition. They feel that way and would prefer not to have a zoning change, but perhaps not sure of another alternative method to make it work for them. But we've asked about that, but doesn't seem to be one. But we ask this group here, our parish councilman, to vote the same way as the zoning and planning committee voted several months back. They were totally opposed to a zoning change. So we request that to everybody here today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, have no other cards. We'll go to the 3-minute. Tammy? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I just want to say that, me wanting to put a mobile home there, it's not like there's no mobile homes in the area. We have a mobile home right next door to us. We have a mobile home behind us on my family's property. There's also a mobile home across the street on a diagonal and across the street on the other diagonal. There's one about a mile up the road. The neighbors have all told me over and over again they don't have a problem with a mobile home. They just do not want a zoning change. So that's why the other board said that they denied the issue, because they didn't want. They said you guys had more power than what they did, that maybe there could be a determination that we could come to where maybe that I could be grandfathered in since I had a mobile home there already, and that maybe we could come to some kind of an agreement where there wouldn't be a zoning change, but they would allow the mobile home to actually go in place since there are mobile homes there, and I did have one previously.
Thank you, ma'am. Jean Ann? Yes, ma'am. You'll have 3 minutes.
I have 3
rebuttal.
minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
The mobile homes that Tammy's speaking about need to be, I think, put in a little bit of perspective. This is the country. This is wide open acreage, so it isn't like a neighborhood of mobile homes. But in fairness to Tammy, yes, those mobile homes are there, but they were all grandfathered in. No overlays were requested, nothing was changed in the zoning, they were grandfathered in as they should have been, and she's right, we are fine with that. It just goes back to precedent. When are you going to start? When are you going to break it and put the first mobile home? And let me ask you guys, if you say yes to this, then what do you do when someone next week or next month comes and says, I want a mobile home on 1 acre on Bennett Bridge? Wouldn't that be precedent setting for you guys that you actually allowed the first one? How do you disallow the second one? And this is not an ongoing thing. This is the first, so it's up to you. And we would like you to please uphold what zoning decided upon. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, do you want to say it? You okay, sir? Okay, thank you. I'm ready, Ms. Casabon. You have the floor, ma'am.
Yes, this has been a very unusual case. When I was first approached with it, I really did not see a problem with the mobile home, and it is a sad case because it is needed. But after further research, which I was kind of shocked that there hasn't been what has happened, and let me explain why the other mobile homes are there to the people that are talking. Years ago, planning and zoning, we had what we call conditional uses, which meant that a person could, without changing the zoning, be allowed to have mobile homes in certain areas. The mobile homes that are there, and one is right next to Tammy, it was replaced double wide. It was an old trailer, so that one was allowed to be replaced. The rest of the homes, there's several, but they're kind of behind other houses. The ones that are right down the road are really landscape. You can't tell that they're more of the modular, types. I have had numerous meetings with the community. I have talked with Tammy. After the decision of the planning and zoning, I did call her, and I talked to members of the planning and zoning afterwards and found out that it's been at least 10 years since on Bennett Bridge Road. There have been other, and I see that we have other mobile home overlays coming up, but these are, like I said, large acreage areas and kind of pastures, and it's family property, and we have granted other mobile homes, but there has not been one on Bennett Bridge, 1078, I think, since we did this. She said her sister does have one. It was, we researched it, it was like 1995 before we started the manufactured overlay. These people it really has been a dilemma for them that I had to call in the DA to explain and see if there could be something that we could do and grandfather this in, but we cannot legally allow her to have it without the manufactured overlay. It's just the way it's written. She had one there, but it was right after Katrina, so the time has lapsed, and we've ended up in this position right now. So I'm going to concur with the planning and zoning's decision to deny.
Ms. Casabon, okay.
Second. I'll make a motion.
Ms. Casabon made a motion to concur with zoning's denial, and we have a second by Ms. O'Brien. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
I know for many years when Martha and I were on the planning and zoning, this would come up a lot. I do have a concern because obviously the woman, she would love to be able to go back into a mobile home. The other people that are around that have mobile homes in the areas that are grandfathered in, you understand if their mobile home burns down, they'll have to come back in and ask for rezoning. So then you should be also against those, if that's the way you feel now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we had a motion and a second. All in favor of Ms. Keziban's motion? Any
Resolution.
opposed?
Resolution.
Seeing none?
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you. And I
Make a-
need a motion.
motion.
by Ms. Keziban, second by Ms. O'Brien to adopt the resolution. All in favor? Any opposed?
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you, ma'am. Number 9, Terry P. Ryan, appealing the zoning commission's approval on August 4, 2020, to rezone 1.83 acres located on the east side of Bayou Road, east of Tantillo Ranch Road, Covington, from A-1 Suburban District to A-2 Suburban District, Ward 1, District 3. Mr. Ryan. Don't see Mr. Ryan here. Okay. Okay, we have one, Willie Seaford, a card from Willie Seaford, but I see no one, Mr. Ryan appealing that, so, no, this is all I have, there's no one else outside. So, I'm gonna go to you, Ms. Keziban. What do you want to do on this project?
Well, the history that I was given on this, this is land that is on the river, and it was a huge estate area. This 1.8 acres was received in a divorce settlement, and the lady doesn't even live here, and she sold it, and the man was very nice. He just wants to put a camp up on stilts so it won't affect the drainage next to the river, is what I was told. So they approved it, and I'll concur with them.
Okay, you want to concur with the planning, the zoning approval. Mr. William Seaford?
Oh,
Yes.
you're here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're the petitioner, right? Yeah.
Well,
I was actually anticipating to respond.
I know.
the
I
individual
haven't
appeal
heard
to
from
Mr.
any,
Ryan.
I don't know who this is, and I have not, no one contacted me. I just happened to read that they were appealing it. But, right, you said you were going to do a camp, and
Yes, sir.
it's only the 1 acre on there, so.
It's, like you said, it was a part of a divorce
Divorce
settlement, community property settlement, that's the only parcel of land that she received.
are you in support of what Ms. Keziban said?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if you need me to say
Okay,
any more.
okay.
No, no, no.
That- that'll make
Let's
it-
go home.
That'll be fine.
I make a motion, or
Okay,
whatever it is.
we-
I
we-
concur with them.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Keziban and a second by Mr. Jimmy Davis to concur with the approval. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Motion by Ms. Keziban, adoption of the resolution, second by Mr. Jerry Bender. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you, ma'am. Number 10, Sam Markovic, appealing the zoning commission denial on August 4th, 2020, to rezone 1 acre located at the northwest corner of US Highway 190 and Chinchuba Gardens Road, being Lot 29 of Chinchuba Gardens, Mandeville, from NC-1 Professional Office District to HC-1 Highway Commercial District, Ward 4, District 10. Mr. Sam? Mr. Markovic? Okay.
Constituents who did come here to speak.
Yes, we do. I have some cards, but that's all. I'm just checking to see if he's here. Okay, so we have no, Sam is not here, but Doris? Miss Doris? Ben Bill, I can't see it. Come on up. Come on up here where I can hear you, ma'am.
Sir, if we may, maybe alter the order. The residents had decided on a certain order.
Okay, we have 10 minutes, and I'm going to go by the cards, okay?
Thank you, sir.
That's what the minute is. So do you wish to speak?
I do, sir.
Okay, you want to go right now?
Do you like to do that? If I'll defer, and I'll pick up again, sir, if that's fine with you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Do you want to come up and speak, sir? You're going to speak for the group, or?
Well, I got a card up there, too.
Okay, well, come on up. Well, I could call you, but come on up.
L. Kevin Coleman, 111 Chinchuba Gardens Drive.
Thank you, sir.
Resident there. I don't know if there's much for me to say since Mr. Markovic isn't here to present his case.
Right.
I need to say that Ms. O'Brien and I had a long, cordial conversation about this. It is her district. I know that she's fully informed of what's going on there. I don't have to tell her anything. Just a little briefly, this subdivision is, the Chinchuba Gardens is, I understand, the first subdivision set up in Mandeville. 1956, I doubt it was coincidental that it happened to be set up the same time as the causeway opening up. And it's a U-shaped street. If you go down 190 this way, if you're leaving from the causeway, heading east, you'll pass the post office, you got a Walgreens, and then it becomes green. And Chinchuba Gardens goes like this. It's just up and around, 2 ways in and out. There's 4 lots that are on the highway that are subject to the present zoning. It's light use, office. There's only 1 building there that is still a single-family residential building that is being used as an office. They're trying to rent it. The other 3 lots, including this one, are undeveloped. Obviously, if you make this kind of change, the other 3 will be entitled to have the same thing. This isn't like the last one you had, let's go from A1 to A2 or something like that. We're going from very light, quiet use office to major commercial. I mean, you can put a time saver, under the zoning change that's desired, a time saver, a gas station with a quick stop. We don't need it. This has been over 60 years that it's been a nice, quiet place, and it's the way it's zoned and the way it's set up right now is the way it's supposed to be. It looks perfect. You go down there, next thing you hit is the creek, and then there's a church. And then after that, you've got 1, 2, 3 subdivisions until you finally come to the east approach coming into 190. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be. This is really unnecessary. And it would very drastically affect all of us there. And there's even one of our neighbors who was here to speak too. The whole side of his house would be right up against a potential gas station. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. June Platt? June?
My husband stepped out. I'll speak on his behalf if that's okay.
Robin? Okay, Robin, you want to come up back?
Jay and I are newbies to the neighborhood. We've only lived there for about 5 or 6 months. Like my neighbor said, it's a very unique neighborhood. It's extremely quiet. I have neighbors who are disabled. We have children on the street. It's a bird sanctuary. There's numerous pets. And I've lived in several different areas in Mandeville because I relocated here about 8 years ago. And it's just a unique neighborhood. To put in the zoning that Mr. Markovic is requesting, which, by the way, we've been here 4 times and he hasn't been here each time. And the last hearing, I do know that the zoning, that it was, the planning board was against it. Not just that you voted against it, but the department was against it as well. And I just wanted to say that at some point we have to stop having hearings for a gentleman who's never going to show up. And I just hope you take into consideration that there are areas in Mandeville that, we need to preserve, and this is one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and I do remember his name a few times. Would you like to come up, ma'am?
All right, I'm Steve Matthews, 142 Chinchuba Garden.
Thank you, Steve.
My wife and I moved in here in 1997. We were going to build up in Folsom, so we bought something close to the causeway that would be real convenient to sell. And as the lady before me just said, that we moved in and went, do you really want to move? Again, this is a spectacular neighborhood. We're neighbors, not roommates. We're not in each other's pockets. But as soon as there's a problem, everybody is there to help each other. It's a unique neighborhood, like they said, and we would really prefer to leave it exactly the way it is. We understand the NC1. You don't want to build your house right there on 190, but HC1, seriously. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, sir. Dina, Jacob?
I'm deferring to Doris. Thank you. Well, thanks for having me again, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Doris Bobadilla at 133 Chinchuba Gardens, Mandeville, Louisiana.
Yes, ma'am.
I really can't say it any better. The gentleman is not here. It's his appeal. The development was against it. He voted against it. It is purely consistent with the area, so we respectfully agree. We respectfully ask that you deny it once again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you, sir.
Robert Thompson? Thornton? Robert? Thompson?
Robert Thompson, 141 Chinchuba Gardens, Mandeville. Everybody else has said pretty much as much. I've been living there for about 21 years, raised all my kids there. You know, it was nice to be able to let my boys and my girl go out in the street and play with their scooters and their ripstick and all that, and I didn't have to worry about somebody running down the road 50 miles an hour like you do in a lot of places. We don't have speed bumps. We don't need anything like that. And we have a community, and we don't need, we just don't need that type of change. You know, at the very end, we do have a commercial spot, but it's a single-family building that's been converted, which is great. I'm a doctor. I might want to put a doctor's office right there. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem with a strip mall or a gas station or a big restaurant or something like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for coming. Monica, I know you want to come?
Monica Thompson.
Yes, ma'am.
Live in Chinchuba. I would just like to say that there is so much empty retail space in the immediate area. There is no reason that one spot has to be rezoned to fit one specific person's needs. There are plenty of areas that would meet the needs rather than changing that one place.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Valerie Carpenter?
Hi, I'm Valerie Carpenter. I'm at 102 Chinchuba Gardens, which is directly next door to the property we're talking about. This is the house that I bought many years ago. It was residential area, a residential zoned area next door to my house. The people knew what the zoning was when they bought it. I moved into this house. I raised my 6 children there. Now I have 9 grandchildren. They come over, they play basketball in my front yard, they play on the swing set in the backyard. I look out my kitchen window, this is what I see. I don't think that if this becomes a strip mall or a gas station or whatever else it could be, that my grandchildren will be able to go outside and play. I don't think they'll be safe. And I don't think that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ryan? Ryan?
Ron Blappert, 153 Chinchuba Gardens. I can't say anything more. It's been said. All I know is we live in a bit of heaven. And it was a little bit different than everybody else in St. Tammany Parish. We're the oldest subdivision, first of all. We got a bit of heaven there. We do not want it spoiled. in any kind of way. And that's what it's going to come down to, because we live there. It's just like everybody said, it's family-oriented. We're all close. We're 100% unanimous against it. There's no reason. It's already voted commercial. We ask y'all to just deny this thing. This is ridiculous. I mean, this is the 4th time I'm here, and what are we getting out of it? I want to get this thing done with so we don't have to worry about this again. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Doris? You want to come back? You okay, babe? June? Miss June? Okay, you okay, babe? Okay, Miss O'Brien.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for everyone who did come to take the time, and did speak to a few people, and several people emailed me. I sincerely appreciate you giving me your feedback about all this. I'm very surprised the petitioner is not here. Everyone does legally have a right to ask for a zoning change. That does not mean, however, that you will receive it. Currently, as was mentioned, it's NC1. And if you look at the type of offices allowed, that would be law, architectural, accountant, real estate, insurance, business, daytime, doctor, dentist, chiropractor, and daytime is critical in that description. Vet clinics with no outdoor kennels and other professional type offices. The request goes from that past NC 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the PBCs, all the way to HC1. That's an extremely significant jump. Now, the staff recommended to deny because they felt it was too intensive. The zoning commission voted unanimously to deny. The public does not support it. And I will tell you, I wrote in your subdivision again today, and everything they said about this area is true. It's the oldest one. It's a very unique place. They have something very special there. And I believe that we need to concur with the zoning denial to keep it that way.
Thank you. Have a motion by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Stefanczyk to concur. All in favor? Any opposed? Have a motion by Ms. O'Brien for resolution, second by Ms. Casabon. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none?
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you. And seeing nothing else, I have a motion by Mr. Fitzgerald and second by Ms. Casabon to adjourn. Thank you. Yes.